Veterans of Reddit, what is your craziest story from your time enlisted? Story 1. A friend of mine's dad, we'll call him Jim, has a really good one from his time in the Air Force. He was posted up as the dorm guard one night, and was told to watch out for the drill sergeant because he likes to come and screw with the new guys. Well, around 1 a.m., the drill sergeant shows up to do exactly that, banging as loud as he could on the heavy one-way self-locking steel door to the dorm. Jim goes to the door and starts rolling through the mandatory spiel we have to go through to defend the door. "Sir, do you have an ID card?" "Open up, trainee, I got this fish!" Sure enough, there was the sergeant standing on the other side of the door holding a massive fish tank filled with water and one lonesome goldfish. "Sir, I need to see your ID card." "I can't get my ID, trainee, I got this fish!" "Sir, I can't let you in without seeing your ID card. I have to refer you down to our CQ, which is basically the front desk for the dorms." "Damn it, son, I've got my ID, but I can't get it out because I got this fish. Now let me in, and I'll get it out for you." Faced with this hopeless dilemma, and nearing his scheduled shift change, and wanting to get some sleep, Jim does the only thing he can, and lets the sergeant in. Well, as soon as he does, the sergeant sets the fish tank down and starts ripping into him. "Why did you let me in without an ID? Everyone in this dorm is dead now because of you." Once the sergeant reached the end of his tirade, he inevitably asked, "So what exactly were you thinking when you let me in, trainee?" "Well, sir, I suppose it didn't really matter because the lock on the door is broken right now anyways." "What?" The sergeant runs back outside and slams the door shut, only to find that the lock was working perfectly fine. Enraged, he screams back at my friend's dad, "God damn it, let me back in there!" To which Jim responds, "Sir, do you have your ID card?" I bet that sergeant was pissed. But you gotta give the guy props though. I mean, he did successfully screw with the guy who was known for screwing with people, so. Story 2. I was deployed to Iraq in 2004. A few months into our tour, my friend gets 2 weeks leave. He was assigned as the gunner on my lieutenant's Humvee. A couple of hours before we go on a mission, the lieutenant asks me if I'd like to fill in for my friend and be his gunner. I have a bad habit of running my mouth, and I didn't think spending a lot of time with the lieutenant was a good idea, so I declined by saying, "I would, sir, but I hear your driver is so bad that he voids my life insurance policy, and my folks would really need the money." He laughed and walked away. That mission, his vehicle was hit by an IED, and the blast killed the gunner, an SPC from HQC who volunteered for the mission. Story 3. I got to do temp duty for a tour in Southeast Asia with a group of mixed SOCOM folks once, mostly SEALs with a couple Marines, on one of the Navy's cyclone boats. We made port in Pattaya, Thailand, and holy shit, what an awesome trip. You want to talk about the happiest place on earth? Screw Disneyland. Anyway, so a bunch of us go out to eat, and then out to a club. A few of the Navy crew from the boat tag along to see what kind of good times the special ops folk get up to. So at the club, as we're watching the dancers, one of the younger kids is sporting some serious googly eyes over this one girl. So we dared him to yank her shorts down when she came back past our part of the stage because she seemed like the good-humored type who'd go for it. So the kid takes the dare, and DJ sees this and cues up "Dude looks like a lady" while all the waitresses are cheering "Lady boy, lady boy," and the dancer does this whole decorous gasp and then hides their man bits and playfully slaps on our boy. This kid freaked out, like full-blown panic attack. We talked him down from his freak out and got him some liquor and figured he was okay after a little while. But the story, of course, got told when we got back on the boat, because, frankly, sailors gossip worse than women. The kid woke up hoping it was all behind him, figured he'd nurse his hangover, and that was the end of it. He walks onto the mess deck and is greeted by a chorus of cheering and applause, and his department head steps up and bequeaths upon him the call sign of Drag Queen. It was good times. Story 4. Back in Iraq in '03, we were tasked with destroying bunkers filled with munitions and demolition materials. We collapsed most of the doorways to these bunkers, but we saved one for last. The demo bunker. This bunker was filled to the brim with Russian C4, anti-personnel mines, anti-tank mines, and that doesn't even start to cover it. Once we blew up all the other bunkers, we decided we were going to make this one the explosion of all explosions. So, despite it being already filled with explosives, we decided to put even more in there. We stuffed every crevice in that fucking thing. We then proceeded to place charges all along the outside. Once we were done, we drove back about 200 meters and got ready for the show. We were all standing on our APCs with our cameras, and all of a sudden we see the mushroom cloud go up, and a shockwave bent all the trees and brush as it came towards us. When that wave finally hit us, it blew a few of us off our vehicles, shattered the combat cameraman's lens, spider-webbed the windshields of all of our cars. Once we were all recovered from the shockwave, we could see the ceiling from the bunker up in the sky as it started to spread apart. Little rocks started landing all around us as we realized that we were starting to get hit with debris from the explosion. I darted into my APC, but not before a chunk of rock landed on my foot, caving the steel toe in. When all was said and done, we drove back to our staging area to chill out while we waited to check out the blast site to avoid getting rained on by more debris. And there happened to be a couple vehicles back at the base that were equipped with loudspeakers, and they started blasting TNT by AC/DC as we arrived. If the explosion wasn't enough, this song pumped us the hell up. We also heard that Camp Warhorse, 2 miles away, called up to make sure we were okay since they heard and saw the explosion. Here's a decent picture of the blast, and here's a picture of the bunker afterwards. I know it sounds like a pretty outlandish story, but I've got at least 30 people who can confirm it. Story 5. Not my story, but one my father tells me almost every week from his time in the Marines. He and a friend were aboard an aircraft carrier, having to clean the runway due to less than admirable behavior on deck, i.e. fighting. Well, the cart they were using to carry all their cleaning supplies had a big handle on the side, and they had just finished their cleaning early in the morning, and instead of walking all the way back, they had a splendidly fun idea. They each took off their button-up shirts, buttoned them together, and tied the sleeves to each side of the handle of the cart. Now, the wind that day was tremendous, not to mention I'm pretty sure the ship was moving. So the shirts billowed tight in the wind, and they both hopped onto the cart, and were blown down the runway. As it turns out, the rest of the ship was on deck for the flag ceremony, including all of the ship's officers. So there's all these people saluting the flag as 2 reprobates fly by on this man-made wind-powered go-kart, and all their heads slowly turn watching them fly down the runway. Yeah, my dad was in trouble a lot during his tour. Story 6. Electric blue glowing dolphins swimming through blue firework-esque schools of fish. Well, exiting the Persian Gulf in '93, I was on mine watch on the forecastle, also known as the forecastle. It was about 2 a.m. and dark as could be since it was a new moon. Bioluminescence was in full effect in the warm waters of the Gulf, especially where the Gulf waters entered the Arabian Sea. Looking down, you could see the sonar dome clearly in a brilliant blue, laser-like light. At one point, we must have had between 5 and 10 dolphins racing just in front of our boat. As we were going along, schools of fish could be seen scattering up with trails of blue light following. It looked almost like fireworks. The dolphins would chase them a bit, but then return to the front of our ship. This went on for over 2 hours. Wow. As beautiful as that sounds, I feel like it would be really distracting for the guy on mine watch. And, well, the waters would be at least lit. You're trying to watch one thing while also trying to make sure you don't all go up in flames. Beautiful, but in a very stressful sort of way, I would imagine. Story 7. Any night in infantry barracks was just ridiculous. We once had a guy shoot a deer with a bow on base and bring it back to the barracks, neither of which was legal. After which, a lot of very drunk Marines proceeded to skin it in someone's shower and run around with different body parts, rubbing blood all over our faces like some kind of drunken sacrifice. It was weird, and I'm pretty sure this was on a weeknight. Story 8. 2 stories come to mind for this. First one is during my deployment. One day we heard news of an incoming sandstorm. Having never seen one, we didn't really know what to expect. So we sat around the living quarters just shooting the shit and waiting. Eventually, one by one, the buildings in the distance just disappeared. It was as if someone turned down the graphic setting on life. Everything just got swallowed in this orange haze. After that, for a few hours, all you could see were floating orange streetlights, and everything inside was orange and covered in sand. Another time, we had a trainee get chewed out for scaring another trainee with a made-up Wiccan ceremony in the shower room after hours. And the drill sergeant's reaction was just perfect. "Trainee, I like you, but if you ever try to summon Satan in my shower room again, I swear to God." Story 9. I have several from just after I finished my occupational specialty training and had returned to my battalion's barracks. That weekend, a hurricane hit the coast of North Carolina, and as a result, our camp was shut down. No one was allowed on or off base, and Marines were told to stay indoors. Some of the things I saw included several Marines getting their jump wings by parachuting from the 3rd floor with ponchos, one Marine retrieving a bottom sample from the inside of a buffalo water tank, another Marine wakeboarding along a retention pond while being towed by a truck driving along the edge, and subsequent to a warning that all Marines must wear flak and Kevlar when outdoors, one Marine strode around the barracks wearing nothing but said flak and Kevlar. All of this was happening in broad daylight at about 4 in the afternoon. After witnessing such shenanigans in such a short period of time, I knew I was in the right place. Story 10. I was in the reserves, and we got called up and assigned to Berlin. My platoon was mostly kids fresh out of high school, just out of training, and not very worldly. If you didn't know, Germany, and Berlin in particular, is a little more free with their adult entertainment than the US. There were signs all over for a club called Land, which featured various overage shows. When I heard my charges were going to visit the place, I felt it necessary to go make sure they didn't get in trouble. So, we paid the 20 German marks to get in, and the younger guys all settled into their front row seating to wait for the show to start, while I sat back at the bar nursing my 8-mark beer. The lights went down, the curtains opened up, and what unfolded was hilarious. I have never seen or smelled fatter women upright on their feet than the 3 women that waddled out onto stage. Those poor kids scrambled out of there as if their lives depended on it. The bartender, laughing at the situation, smiled at me and said, "Wednesday night is fat night, come back tomorrow." So, Thursday, repeat. Except Thursday was pet night. The bartender, again laughing at the situation, told me, sorry, come back tomorrow. Weeknights are weird. Fridays and weekends are the normal nights. I kind of want to know what the hell pet night is. I mean, I've got an idea, but kind of want to know, you know? Story 11. Swiss Army in the 90s. We were camping somewhere in the Alps in November. First snow had just fallen. And for some reason that I will never understand, we had to have fully armed guards 24/7, even if we weren't in a tactical training, but on a skill training. Because everyone knows how dangerous the Swiss Alps are. At around 3 a.m., we hear shouting, then gunfire. Next thing is our NCO shouting medic, which was me. I ran out and saw a fairly large puddle of blood in the snow. Shocked, I looked for a patient, but couldn't find anyone. Later on, I got told what happened. 2 conscripted soldiers were standing guard, and one decided to go to the bathroom. When he returns, the other soldier is standing guard butt naked with only his rifle and a knife. He slashes at himself and then empties his whole magazine into the air before running off into the snowy night. A huge search operation was commenced immediately, but we never found him. It's one of the strangest things that ever happened to me during my time in the military. That's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It helps me out more than you know. I'm ReddList. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.